The fire came without warning. Yuna was checking cargo boxes in the lower deck of the space station when the first explosion shook the walls. She fell against a metal shelf, her shoulder hitting hard. The lights flickered. Then the screaming started. She was 26 years old, small and thin, with black hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She worked as a cargo technician on a human freighter called the Endless Dawn. It was boring work. Safe work. She moved boxes from one place to another and never expected anything exciting to happen. But the dragons had come to Wyrm Station. Everyone in the galaxy knew about the dragons. They called themselves the Eternal Flame, and they had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They were massive creatures, some as long as a kilometer, with scales harder than any metal and fire that could burn even in the empty void of space. They treated other species like insects. Sometimes they ignored them. Sometimes they crushed them. Humanity had only traveled between stars for 80 years. They were new. They were weak. They were nothing to the dragons. Yuna crawled through the burning corridor, smoke filling her lungs. Her crewmates were dead. She had seen their bodies near the docking bay, burned beyond recognition. Her ship was gone too, torn apart by dragon fire. She had no way to escape, but she kept moving. That was the only thing she could do. She found the medical bay by accident. The door was broken, hanging open. Inside, the lights still worked, though they flickered every few seconds. Medical equipment lay scattered across the floor. And in the corner, something impossible waited for her. A dragon. Yuna froze. Her heart stopped beating for a moment. The dragon was small by their standards, maybe 30 meters long, curled against the wall. Its scales were deep purple, cracked and bleeding in many places. It was dying, and beside it, glowing with soft inner light, was an egg. The dragon's eyes opened. They were like dying stars, filled with pain and fading light. Yuna wanted to run, but her legs would not move. "Human," the dragon whispered. Her voice was like rocks grinding together, deep and ancient. "You should not be here." I'm trying to escape," Yuna managed to say. "There is no escape. They have come to end my bloodline." The dragon's massive head turned toward the egg. "My mate was the last elder who believed in peace between our kind and others. They killed him for it. Now they kill me. And they will kill her." The egg pulsed with light, like a heartbeat. Yuna did not know why she stepped closer. It was stupid. It was dangerous. But something in the dragon's voice, something desperate and sad, pulled at her heart. "Why?" she asked. "Why kill an egg?" "Because she represents hope. Because if she lives, others might believe that dragons can change. The eternal flame cannot allow that." The dragon coughed and blue blood spilled from her mouth. "I cannot ask this of you. You are small. You are prey. You are nothing in the eyes of my kind." Yuna should have felt insulted. Instead, she felt strangely calm. "But you are also unexpected," the dragon continued. "You came here when you should have run. You speak to me when you should scream. Will you carry her? Will you hide her? Will you give my daughter a chance to live?" The station shook again. More explosions. More screaming. Time was running out. Yuna looked at the egg. It was no larger than a watermelon, warm and glowing. Inside it, a baby dragon waited to be born. A creature that would grow to be massive and powerful and terrifying, or a creature that would die before it ever saw the stars. She did not think. She simply acted. "Yes," she said. "I will take her." The dragon's eyes filled with something Yuna did not expect. Gratitude, relief, love. "A name. You must give her a name. Something of your world. Something that will remind her that she is more than fire and scales." Yuna picked up the egg. It was warm against her chest, pulsing like a second heart. She thought of her grandmother's stories, of the cold winds that blew through the mountains of old Korea. "Bora," she said. "I will call her Bora." "Bora," the dragon repeated. "The winter wind. Yes, that is good. That is beautiful." Her eyes began to close. "Run now, little human. Run and do not look back. Raise my daughter. Teach her to be kind. Teach her that there is more to life than burning." "I will," Yuna promised. "I swear it." The dragon smiled. It was a strange thing to see, a smile on a face made for terror. Then her eyes closed for the last time, and her gray body went still. Yuna ran. She found an escape pod near the maintenance section. It was small, barely large enough for one person, designed for emergencies exactly like this. She climbed inside, clutching the egg to her chest, and launched into the void. Behind her, Velen Station crumbled into fire and ash. 3 dragon warships circled the wreckage, their massive forms blocking out the stars. They were searching for survivors, making sure no one escaped. But Yuna's pod was too small, too insignificant. The dragon's scanners passed over her without notice. She was just debris, just another piece of garbage floating in space. She watched them through the tiny window. They were beautiful in a terrible way, their scales reflecting the light of the burning station. They did not know what she carried. They did not know that their enemy's last hope was drifting away in the arms of a human woman. The egg pulsed against her chest. "I don't know what I'm doing," Yuna whispered to it. "I don't know how to raise a dragon. I don't know anything about your kind. But I made a promise to your mother, and I will keep it." She held the egg tighter. "I will keep you safe, Bora, no matter what happens. No matter who comes for us. I will protect you." Hours passed. The dragons left, satisfied that the traitor bloodline had ended. The fire died. The station became a graveyard, floating silent in the void. And then, like a miracle, a signal appeared on Yuna's screen. A human ship, the Steadfast Hope, responding to her distress beacon. She was going to live. They were both going to live. Yuna closed her eyes and held her daughter close. The future was uncertain and terrifying. The most powerful creatures in the galaxy would hunt them if they ever discovered the truth. She was just a cargo technician, small and weak and ordinary, but she had made a choice. She had chosen to love something different from herself. And that choice, that simple human choice, would one day shake the foundations of the universe. She did not know it yet, but the dragons would learn to fear her name. 3 years had passed since the fire. Yuna lived on Business Station now, a spinning cylinder of metal and glass floating in the outer reaches of human space. It was a quiet place, far from the busy trade routes and political centers. Most people who lived there were workers and engineers, simple folk who wanted simple lives. It was the perfect place to hide a dragon. Bora had grown fast, much faster than any human child. At 3 years old, she was the size of a large dog, with scales like liquid silver that shimmered when light touched them. Her eyes were deep blue, filled with swirling patterns that looked like distant galaxies. She had small wings that she could not yet use, and tiny claws that clicked against the floor. When she walked, she was beautiful. She was terrifying. And she was the most precious thing in Yuna's life. Yuna's brother, Taiho, had asked no questions when she arrived at his door with a pet. He was an engineer on the station, a quiet man who believed in family above all else. When the pet began to speak, he simply nodded and adjusted the heating system in Yuna's apartment to keep Bora comfortable. That was the way of their family. You helped each other. You kept secrets. You did not ask questions that did not need answers. Bora learned human languages with amazing speed. Korean came first, then English, then Mandarin. She learned to read and write before her 2nd birthday. She learned human games, human jokes, human songs. She sat with Yuna every night and listened to stories about Earth, about mountains and oceans and forests filled with animals that did not breathe fire. "Tell me about the sea again," Bora would say, curling her silver body on Yuna's lap. "Tell me about the waves." "The waves are like dragon fire," Yuna would answer, stroking her scales. "But instead of burning, they dance. They crash against the rocks and then pull back over and over, forever. I want to see them someday." "You will. I promise." But promises were difficult to keep when you were hiding from the most powerful creatures in the galaxy. One night, Bora asked the question Yuna had been dreading. Why did they want to kill me? Yuna's hands stopped moving on Bora's scales. She took a deep breath. "Because your parents believed that dragons and other species could live together in peace. The eternal flame did not like that. They believe dragons are gods and everyone else is beneath them." "But I don't feel like a god," Bora said. "I feel small." Yuna smiled sadly. "You are not small. You are young. There is a difference. Am I bad? Am I wrong?" "No." Yuna pulled Bora closer. "You are kind and curious and good. You are everything your mother hoped you would be." "But you are my mother," Bora said softly. "You raised me. You taught me. You held me when I was scared." Yuna's eyes filled with tears. She had never expected to become a mother. She had never expected to love anything as much as she loved this strange, beautiful creature. "Yes," she whispered. "I am your mother, and I will always protect you." For 3 years, the secret held. Bora grew and learned and laughed. Yuna worked her job and paid her bills and pretended everything was normal. Taiho kept the heating systems running and never spoke a word to anyone. But secrets have a way of escaping. Velen's scout ship passed through the system one day. It was routine, following old trade routes, checking for illegal activity. It should have meant nothing, but dragons could sense their own kind across vast distances. It was an ability they were born with, a connection that linked all of them together. And Bora, though young and small, was still a dragon. The scout ship detected her presence. Faint, weak, but unmistakable. Within hours, a message reached Earth's government. It was short and simple. "You harbor a criminal of the eternal flame. Surrender the Wyrm, or your species will burn." Panic spread through the government like fire through dry grass. Humanity had never fought a dragon. They had never even considered it possible. The eternal flame had destroyed civilizations that had existed for millions of years. What chance did humans have? Politicians argued and shouted and blamed each other. Generals scrambled to prepare defenses that everyone knew would be useless. The public did not even know what was happening. Everything was kept secret, hidden behind closed doors. But in a small apartment on Business Station, Yuna held her daughter and made a decision. "We have to run," she said. Bora looked up at her, fear in her galaxy-filled eyes. "Where will we go?" "I don't know yet. But there must be others out there who hate the dragons. Others who have lost everything to the eternal flame. We will find them. We will hide among them." Taiho stood in the doorway, his face grim. "You know they will never stop hunting her. I know. You could give her up. Save yourself. Save humanity." Yuna's eyes hardened. "I would rather die." Taiho nodded slowly. He had expected that answer. "Then I'm coming with you. You don't have to." "She's my niece," Taiho said simply. "Family protects family." They left that night. Taiho had a small ship, barely larger than a shuttle, designed for short trips between stations. It was not meant for long journeys. It was not meant for running from dragons, but it was all they had as Business Station grew smaller in the rear window. Bora pressed her face against the glass and watched her home disappear. "Will we ever come back?" She asked. Someday, Yuna said. When it's safe. When will it be safe? Yuna did not answer. She did not know. Maybe never. Maybe they would spend their entire lives running from one hiding place to another, always looking over their shoulders, always afraid. But she would not give up. She would not surrender. She would not let them take her daughter. The galaxy was vast and dark and full of danger. But somewhere out there, she knew, there were others who had suffered at the claws of the eternal flame. Others who had lost their homes, their families, their hope. She would find them. And together, they would teach the dragons to fear. The small ship jumped into faster than light travel, leaving human space behind. Ahead of them lay the unknown. Behind them, the eternal flame was already gathering its forces. The hunt had begun. But the hunters did not know what they were truly chasing. They thought they were hunting a baby dragon, weak and helpless and alone. They did not understand that. They were hunting something far more dangerous. They were hunting a mother's love, and that was a fire even dragons could not extinguish. 5 years of running had changed everything. Yuna was 34 years old now. Her face had grown harder, her eyes sharper. She had seen things that would give most people nightmares. She had buried friends who died protecting her secret. She had learned to fight, to lie, to do whatever was necessary to keep her daughter safe. And Bora had grown into something magnificent. At 8 years old, she was nearly 100 meters long from nose to tail. Her silver scales caught every light and turned it into rainbows. Her wings could spread across half a kilometer when she stretched them. Her fire burned blue-white, hotter than the heart of a star. She was a dragon in full, powerful and beautiful and terrifying, but inside, she was still the curious child who loved stories about oceans and mountains. She was still the daughter who curled close to her mother at night and asked questions about the universe. She was still Bora, the winter wind, named by a small human woman in a burning space station. The galaxy was full of species who had suffered under the eternal flame. Yuna had spent 5 years finding them. The Thornaki were made of living crystal, their bodies hard and sharp like diamonds. Their homeworld had been burned to nothing 1,000 years ago. Now they lived in scattered groups on asteroids and dead moons, hiding from dragon patrols. The Volith were insects, large and strange, with clicking mandibles and compound eyes. Their queens had ruled a vast empire once. Then the dragons came and burned their worlds for sport. Only a few hives survived, led by Queen 17, who had watched her mother die in dragon fire. The Morning Collective was not a species at all. They were machines, artificial minds created by a people called the Architects. The dragons had hunted the Architects to extinction, but their AI children lived on, their electronic voices singing sad songs for their lost creators. All of them were broken. All of them were hiding. All of them had no hope, but they all had rage. Why should we trust you? Queen 17 asked during their first meeting. Her mandibles clicked with suspicion. You are human. Humans have never helped anyone but themselves. I am raising a dragon as my daughter, Yuna replied calmly. I think that proves I am not like most humans. Bora lowered her massive head, her galaxy-filled eyes gentle. My mother saved me when she had no reason to. She protected me when the entire galaxy wanted me dead. If she says she wants to help you, she means it. The Thornaki representative, a crystalline being named Ga, vibrated with thought. You are proof that dragons can choose another path. That alone makes you valuable. I don't want to be valuable, Bora said. I want to be free. I want all of us to be free. Freedom requires fighting, Queen 17 said. Are you willing to fight your own kind? Bora was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was sad but firm. The eternal flame stopped being my kind when they killed my parents. when they hunted me like an animal, when they threatened to burn the woman who raised me. Her fire flickered in her throat, blue and dangerous. Yes, I will fight. Not because I hate them, but because I love the people they want to destroy. The coalition was born that day. They gathered on a hidden asteroid base, deep in a region of space no dragon had visited in centuries. Thornaki engineers built defenses. Vela soldiers trained for battle. The Morning Collective provided information, their networks stretching across half the galaxy. And humans kept coming. Word had spread through secret channels. A dragon had joined the rebellion. A real dragon, raised by a human woman, fighting against the eternal flame. It seemed impossible. It seemed insane. It gave people hope. Ships arrived carrying refugees from burned worlds. Scientists came with stolen knowledge about dragon weaknesses. Soldiers came looking for revenge. Ordinary people came because they were tired of being afraid. Tae-ho organized them all, his engineering mind perfect for the chaos of building a resistance from nothing. He found homes for the refugees, weapons for the soldiers, equipment for the scientists. He worked 18 hours a day and never complained. You should rest, Yuna told him one night. I'll rest when we win, he replied. The first battle came at the Thornaki graveyard. 3 dragon warships arrived, each carrying a full-grown dragon warrior. They had come to crush the rebellion before it could grow. They expected to find scattered refugees hiding in the debris of a dead world. They found Bora. She met them in the void of space, her wings spreading like silver sails, her fire ready to burn. She had never fought before. She had never killed. She was terrified, but her mother's voice was in her ear, transmitted through a tiny communicator. You can do this, Bora. I believe in you. The dragons attacked. They were ancient warriors, experienced killers, each one 100 times her age. Their fire was red and gold, hot enough to melt metal. Their claws had torn apart ships and stations and entire civilizations. Bora should have died in seconds. But she was not alone. Human ships swarmed around her, small and fast and impossibly brave. They had no weapons that could pierce dragon scales. They had no shields that could block dragon fire. But they had something the dragons had never faced before. They had absolute spite. A pilot named Yunji, who had lost her family on Velen Station, flew her shuttle directly into a dragon's eye. She died instantly, but the dragon screamed and lost its balance. Tae-ho, commanding a mining ship loaded with explosives, detonated his cargo against a dragon's wing. The blast tore through scales and muscle. The dragon spun out of control. Bora struck while they were wounded, her blue fire cutting through ancient armor. One dragon fell, then another. The third dragon fled, its wings torn. Its pride shattered. The eternal flame had never lost a battle in 10,000 years. Until now. News of the victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. A dragon had fought for the rebellion. Humans had stood beside her. The impossible had become possible. More species joined the coalition. More ships arrived at the hidden base. More soldiers swore to fight. And in the center of it all, a small human woman watched her daughter heal from her wounds and smiled. I told you that you could do it, Yuna said. Bora lowered her massive head until her nose touched Yuna's hand. I was so scared. That's okay. Being scared and fighting anyway is what courage means. Will you always be with me? Yuna reached up and touched her daughter's scales, the same gesture she had used since Bora was small enough to hold. Always, she promised. No matter what happens, no matter how big you get, I will always be your mother, and I will always be beside you. The war had begun, and humanity, the youngest species in the galaxy, had just become the dragon's worst nightmare. The war lasted 12 years. Yuna was 46 years old when she realized they might actually win. She stood on the bridge of the Defiant, the flagship of the coalition fleet. Her hair was starting to gray at the temples. Her hands had small scars from years of fighting. But her eyes were still sharp, still filled with the same determination that had made her pick up an egg in a burning station 20 years ago. Through the viewport, she could see the battlefield. Hundreds of ships from dozens of species, flying in formation. Human cruisers alongside Dharnaki crystal ships. Velith carriers next to morning collective data vessels. And above them all, dragons, not enemy dragons. Or dragons, the Silver Wing, they called themselves. Young dragons who had defected from the eternal flame, drawn by stories of Bora and her human mother. They came one by one at first, scared and uncertain. Then they came in pairs, in groups, in entire families. They were tired of the old ways. They wanted something better. Bora led them all. She was 20 years old now, fully grown, her silver scales marked with scars from 100 battles. She had become everything her birth mother had hoped for and more. She was fierce in battle and gentle in peace. She burned her enemies without mercy, but cried when her soldiers died. She was a dragon, ancient and powerful, and she was also human in all the ways that mattered. The eternal flame was losing Dot at the start of the war. They had 93 elders, ancient dragons who had lived for thousands of years. Now only 12 remained. Their empire was crumbling. Their armies were retreating. For the first time in 10,000 years, they knew fear. Grand Marshal, said Doyun, Yuna's second-in-command. He was a young man, barely 30, who had grown up hearing stories about the human woman who raised a dragon. The enemy fleet is approaching. Yuna nodded. How many dragons? 8, including 3 elders. And Bora? Ready and waiting, ma'am. Yuna smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was the smile of a woman who had spent 12 years watching her people die and was finally close to ending it. Tell her to burn them all. The battle lasted 6 hours. 8 enemy dragons against 23 of the Silver Wing. 3 elders against Bora and her chosen lieutenants. The void of space filled with fire, red and gold against blue and white. Ships exploded. Dragons screamed. The stars themselves seemed to shake. Yuna watched from the Defiance Bridge, her hands gripping the railing until her knuckles turned white. She had learned long ago that she could not fight beside Bora in space. She was too small, too fragile, too human. All she could do was watch and pray and hope. But she could still talk to her daughter. Watch your left wing, she said through the communicator. That elder is trying to flank you. I see him, Bora replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. Dealing with him now. Blue fire cut through the void. The elder screamed and fell, his ancient body torn apart by a dragon half his age. Good girl, Yuna whispered. The battle ended with the enemy in full retreat. 5 dragons dead on their side. None on the Silver Wing. It was the most complete victory they had ever achieved. But Yuna did not celebrate Dot. She took a shuttle to the medical station where the wounded were being treated. Human soldiers with burns and broken bones. Dharnaki with cracked crystals. Velith with missing limbs. They had won, but the cost was written on their bodies. She walked among them, touching hands, speaking quiet words of thanks. Some of them cried when they saw her. Some of them saluted. All of them looked at her like she was something holy. She was just a cargo technician. She had never wanted to be a symbol, but symbols were what people needed in dark times. Bora found her there, shrinking her form until she was small enough to fit through the corridors. It was an ability only the oldest and most powerful dragons possessed, changing their size at will. Bora had learned it 3 years ago, and she used it whenever she wanted to be close to her mother. We won, Bora said, curling beside Yuna in the corridor. We did. Then why do you look so sad? Yuna stroked her daughter's scales. Because winning isn't the same as ending. The Eternal Flame still has 12 elders. They still have fleets and armies. They will never surrender. Then we destroy them all. And then what? Do we become the new tyrants? Do we rule the galaxy through fear, the way they did? Bora was quiet for a long moment. No, we rebuild. We create something new. That's harder than fighting. Fighting is simple. Building is complicated. You built me, Bora said softly. You took an egg from a dying dragon and turned it into a daughter. If you can do that, you can do anything. Yuna laughed, tears running down her face. When did you become so wise? I had a good teacher. The war continued. The Eternal Flame grew desperate as their numbers shrank. They burned colony worlds. They attacked civilian targets. They tried to spread fear the way they had for 10,000 years. But fear no longer worked. Every world they burned. 2 more joined the rebellion. Every atrocity they committed made the coalition stronger. The galaxy had spent 10,000 years being afraid. Now they were angry, and angry people were far more dangerous than scared ones. The final 12 elders gathered for a last stand. They sent a message to the coalition, broadcast across every channel in the galaxy. Meet us above the human homeworld. We will end this war there, one way or another. It was a trap. Everyone knew it was a trap. The dragons wanted to destroy Earth, to break human spirit by burning the birthplace of the species that had dared to challenge them. Yuna did not hesitate. We accept, she replied. Gather every ship we have, every dragon, every soldier. We end this at Earth. Taiho found her in her quarters that night, staring out at the stars. You know this could be the end, he said. I know. You could die. Bora could die. Everything we've built could burn. I know. Taiho sat beside her. His hair was white now, his face lined with age. But his eyes were still the same, steady and calm. Then why? Yuna turned to look at him. Because some things are worth dying for. Because if we don't fight here, we fight somewhere else, and somewhere else, and somewhere else, forever. Because Earth is home, and home is worth protecting. And because you're stubborn. Yuna smiled. And because I'm stubborn. They sat in silence for a long time. 2 siblings who had traveled across the galaxy together, who had built an army from nothing, who had helped change the course of history. I'm glad you came with me, Yuna said finally. I'm glad you asked. The fleet began its journey to Earth. The final battle was coming. And Yuna, the cargo technician who had picked up an egg and started a revolution, would be there to see it end. One way or another. Earth was beautiful from space. Why Yuna had not seen her homeworld in 20 years. She had been born on a colony station, had lived most of her life among the stars. But Earth was still home. It was still the blue and green marble that humans had looked up at since they first learned to dream. Now it was about to become a battlefield. The Eternal Flame had gathered every remaining dragon for this final fight. 12 elders, ancient beyond imagination. 47 warrior dragons, each one hardened by centuries of conquest. Their scales were golden red and black. Their fire hot enough to turn oceans to steam. Against them stood the Silver Wing, Bora and her 23 followers, young and brave and fighting for something they believed in. Their scales were silver and blue and white, their fire burning with hope instead of hate. Behind them, the coalition fleet spread across half the sky. Human ships, Thonaki crystals, Velith carriers, mourning collective networks. Hundreds of vessels carrying millions of soldiers, all of them knowing they might die today. Yuna stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the enemy approach. She was 63 years old. Her hair was gray. Her body was tired. The doctors had told her that her heart was failing, that she did not have many years left, but she had enough time for this. Grand Marshal, Do-hyun said quietly. The enemy is in range. I know. She pressed the communicator on her wrist. Bora, I'm here, Mother. Even through the electronic crackle, Bora's voice was steady. This is it. Everything we fought for. Everything we've sacrificed. It ends today. I know. I love you. I have loved you since the moment I picked up your egg. Whatever happens today, I want you to know that. There was silence on the other end. Then, I love you too. You gave me everything. A name, a family, a reason to live. I would not be who I am without you. Then go show them who you are. The battle began. Dragons clashed in the space above Earth, fire filling the void with light. Silver and blue against gold and red. Ancient elders against young rebels. The screams of dying dragons echoed across every communication channel. The coalition fleet engaged the enemy support ships, human cruisers trading fire with dragon warships. Dornaki vessels shattered enemy shields. Velith fighters swarmed like insects. Morning collective drones filled the darkness with electronic warfare. It was chaos. It was beautiful. It was terrible. Yuna watched it all, her hands gripping the railing, her heart pounding despite its weakness. Come on, she whispered. Come on. Bora was fighting 3 elders at once, her silver body twisting through space, her blue fire cutting through ancient scales. She was faster than them, more agile, more desperate. But they were stronger, older, more experienced. One of them caught her wing with his claws. She screamed, "No!" Yuna shouted. But Bora did not fall. She twisted, turning the elder's grip against him, and drove her teeth into his throat. Blue fire poured from her mouth, burning through scale and flesh and bone. The elder died. 2 remained. They fought for 3 hours above the Pacific Ocean. Bora killed the second elder by tearing his wings off and letting him fall into the water below. The third she killed with pure fire, her flames so hot they turned his ancient body to ash in seconds. Then it was just her and the last elder, the oldest dragon in the galaxy. He was massive, nearly a kilometer long, his scales black as the void between stars. He had lived for 15,000 years. He had destroyed civilizations before humans had learned to make fire, and he was afraid. What are you? He demanded, his voice shaking with rage and terror. You are a child, a nothing. How have you done this? Bora hovered before him, her silver scales covered in blood and ash, her blue eyes burning with exhausted determination. I am Bora, she said. The Winter Wind. Named by a human woman who found me in a burning station and chose to love me instead of fear me. Love, the elder spat. Love is weakness. No, love is the reason I'm still standing. Love is the reason your empire is crumbling. Love is the reason you have already lost. She attacked. The final battle lasted 30 minutes. They fought above the ocean, their fire turning the water to steam for 100 kilometers. They crashed through clouds and tore through the sky. The people of Earth watched from below, seeing dragons battle above their cities, their homes, their lives. In the end, Bora drove her claws through the last elder's heart. His body fell into the Pacific Ocean, creating a wave that struck coastlines across the world. His fire went out. His eyes went dark. The eternal flame was finished. Bora flew slowly back to Bizen Station, where her mother waited. The station was small compared to her massive form, a spinning cylinder of metal that seemed fragile and temporary. But inside that cylinder was the person she loved most in all the universe. She shrank her body down until she could fit through the airlocks, until she was small enough to curl beside a hospital bed, because Yuna was dying. The doctors had done everything they could. But her heart had given out during the battle. The stress had been too much. Yuan lay in the white bed, her gray hair spread on the pillow, her breathing slow and weak. But when she saw Bora, she smiled. "We won," Bora said, pressing her nose against her mother's hand. "I know. I watched. The eternal flame is gone. The elders are dead. It's over. It's just beginning," Yuna whispered. "Now comes the hard part. Building something new. Teaching dragons and humans to live together. Creating peace instead of just winning war. I don't know if I can do it alone. You won't be alone. Taiho will help you. The coalition will help you. And I," Yuna's voice caught, "I will always be with you. In your heart. In your memories. In everything I taught you." Bora lowered her head onto the bed, her eyes filled with tears that dragons were not supposed to shed. "I don't want you to go. I don't want to go either. But I have lived a full life, my daughter. I have done things I never imagined. I have loved and been loved. I have no regrets." "Thank you," Bora whispered. "Thank you for saving me. Thank you for raising me. Thank you for teaching me what it means to be good." Yuna reached up with trembling fingers and touched her daughter's scales one last time. "Thank you for being my daughter. Thank you for giving my life meaning. Thank you for being the best thing that ever happened to me." Her eyes closed, her breathing stopped, and Yuna, the cargo technician who had picked up an egg and changed the universe, was gone. The galaxy mourned. Humans and dragons stood together at her memorial, former enemies united in grief. They spoke of her courage, her kindness, her stubborn refusal to give up. They spoke of the small woman who had loved something different from herself and in doing so had saved everyone. Bora spoke last. "My mother was not a warrior," she said, her voice carrying across the gathered crowd. "She was not a general or a politician. She was a small, ordinary woman who made one extraordinary choice. She chose to love instead of fear. She chose to hope instead of despair. She chose to protect instead of destroy. She looked down at the humans and dragons and all the other species who had gathered. That is what made humanity the dragon's enemy. And it is what made them our salvation. Not their weapons, not their ships, their hearts. Their stubborn, foolish, beautiful hearts." The memorial ended with dragons breathing fire into the sky. A salute to the woman who had changed everything. And 200 years later, in the capital of a united galaxy, there stood a statue of a small woman holding an egg. Beneath it, an inscription. She carried the last baby Wyrm and taught the universe what it means to love. Every year, on the anniversary of her death, dragons descended from the sky to lay flowers at her feet. They remembered. They would always remember. The cargo technician who became a mother. The mother who became a legend. The legend who proved that the most powerful force in the universe was not fire or steel or ancient magic. It was love. And love, unlike dragons, would never die.